want anybody to know, his friends to know about the event, and now he has grown up, married with his own family, and will have nothing to do with the subject whatsoever. One of the curious things that he, at the time, would not allow me to tell anyone, certainly his friends, was that after the event he began to write poetry. Spontaneous. He managed to find a job, he worked in a hotel, and spontaneous poetry would come into his head. He began to write songs, a lot of which was related to what had happened to him. He was an 18-year-old young man into rock music. Please don't ever tell any of my friends that I write poetry, so I never did. And you know, the case in itself is no different from a lot of other cases. It's only when you meet the witness and see his reaction to his experience, you can see him physically shaking with fear, it makes a big impression upon me. And I'm convinced that whatever abductions are, that young man, Nigel, did have a very, very frightening abduction experience.
Well, let's talk about Roswell.
Yes, indeed.
Can you make a summary of your presentation or your conference, or could you tell us something about him, the way you entered into this?
Yes, I mean, I became aware of the alleged Roswell film footage 2 years ago now. Ray Santilli, that's the man who now owns the film, contacted me on behalf of the Recorder and asked if we would be interested in perhaps putting a UFO documentary together on video. I said, well, possibly. So we had a few conversations about what we could and couldn't do. And eventually he told me that a short time prior to him contacting me, he'd been in America researching a documentary on Elvis Presley. And he had sought out a veteran cameraman who had some archive film of Elvis, which he purchased from him. And before returning to England, this gentleman called Jack Barnett phoned him at the hotel and said, come and see me before you go home. I have something else I would like to show you. So Ray went to see him. It wasn't a film of Elvis Presley. It was the Roswell film. The story is that prior to 1952, he was employed by the US military as a cameraman, and that in 1947 he'd been taken or flown into Roswell and other locations to film the event, which he did. And at some point he either kept a copy or made a copy of the film, which had remained hidden for almost 50 years. His granddaughter was about to be married, and she was the apple of grandfather's eye. And he wanted to contribute to the wedding in some respects financially, so he quite reluctantly decided to sell the film. Ray eventually bought the film and brought it back to England. So I didn't know Ray Santilli, never met him, so I just simply asked for him to show me the film. I would sign any document not to reveal its contents if necessary. But unfortunately for over a year, I was never able to see the film. Appointments were made and Ray had to cancel them. So at the beginning of this year, I'd almost dismissed the story. There's nothing more than that, just a story. I met Ray once in between in London. I was actually reviewing the Roswell movie, which stars Kyle MacLachlan and Martin Sheen, a copy of which I've brought here to Italy. And I thought, I wonder if this Santilli chap still claims to have original footage. So I picked the telephone up, phoned his office, and he says, yes, Philip, I do, but you don't believe me. I said, well, I'll only believe you when you actually show it to me. So again, we exchanged a few faxes and a few telephone calls. And in February of this year, 1995, my wife, Sue, and I went to his office in London, and he gave us part of the film, the first part of the film, to view. It lasts about 7 minutes. Black and white, no sound. And he claims it was taken on site in Roswell in a temporary construction. We'd call it a tent. It could be a hut, whatever. And in it, it's rather poor quality film. It's rather dark. But on the film, you can see a creature laid out on a table. It's partially covered with a blanket of some kind. You can see its feet and its head. Beyond it are two men in white coats, appear to be examining the creature, taking a tissue sample. You can see something that looks like flesh, sinew and that kind of thing. And in the foreground there is a man with his back to the camera, in dark clothing, could be a military man, I don't know. camera remains in a fixed position all the time, and no close-ups. And as I said, the film is rather poor quality, the contrast goes up and down, it jumps a little. But nonetheless, it was intriguing. And part of my work before is also conference organiser. Well, we already had our conference planned for August of this year. So I asked Ray Santilli if he would speak at the conference and show the film. And to my surprise, he said yes. So, quite by chance, we released this story to the newspapers. The story went around the world, quite literally. And we were contacted by newspapers and television and radio from Australia and everywhere else in between. So that's how the story got out. Since that time, it came out, myself and my wife Sue have seen 2 further segments of tape, both of which are different autopsy scenes. The major difference is the quality of the film is much better. It's very, very clear. You can see everything in full detail. The creature is in a white room on a slab, medical instruments, there's a clock on the wall and a telephone. The back of the room is a partition wall with a window. There's someone else in there, and surgical clothes. There are a number of people examining this creature. They wear all-in-one protection suits. Gap for the eyes here, so you cannot see their faces. Unlike the people in the first piece of film, they just had white clothing on, but you can see their faces. And they quite literally dissect the creature before your very eyes. It's humanoid. It's got an overly large head at the back. Its ears are somewhat lower than ours, down here somewhere. It's a bit smaller, black eyes. It's got 6 digits on its hands and feet. An enlarged abdomen, mouth, nose, appears to have female sexual organs. First autopsy, the creature was seen, no damage. Cut it open, reveal everything, take out various organs, put them in receptacles, and documenting this as they go along. The second autopsy is very, very similar. The creature has a damaged leg, and there is 1 extra person in the room with them compared to the first autopsy.